Welcome to Power Lunch Live. I'm Rhett Power, your host. It's good to be with you here today, back for another episode, another show. And look, the whole point of the show is to have today's thought leaders, best-selling authors, CEOs, people who are doing amazing work in the world, leading amazing companies, people that we can learn from. And today is no different. I've got Karl Sun, who is co-founder and CEO of Lucid Software, a leading provider of visual collaboration software. Now, he's got some brand new products, Lucidchart, Lucid Spark, and Lucidscale. We're going to talk about those today. But their job is really to make your job and your teams collaborate better. Now, he's got a BS and an MS from MIT. He's got an MS from MIT in technology and policy. He's got a JD from Harvard Law School, and he's been honored with the Utah Business CEO of the Year and the EY Entrepreneur of the Year award. And so, Karl, welcome.
Thanks, Rhett. Great to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we met a few weeks ago in Portugal, and ever since we had that talk on stage, I wanted to have you back to sort of dig deeper into your story and to talk to you more about Lucid and what you're doing. So you guys, you're what? Is it 11 years old now? Is it?
That's right. Just 11 years.
11.
It's flown by.
So has I'm sure at moments it doesn't feel like it, but has the original vision, I mean, looking at the changes we've had in society and technology and the way we work with the pandemic, it really accelerating remote work. Has your vision sort of stayed the same, or has it evolved? I mean, I'm sure it's evolved, but when you were sitting there around 12 years ago, dreaming this up and working on this, has the vision stayed the same, or have you guys sort of changed?
Yeah, it's a great question, Rhett. And, I'd say yes, in large part, the vision has stayed the same. If anything, it's become larger over time. I think, when I met my co-founder, Ben, back 11 plus years ago, he was working actually at a small startup. He had a team of maybe a dozen people. They were trying to build a product in a brand new space. It was very complex. And they were trying to understand the product flow and how this would work, because it was in the healthcare space. So, highly regulated industry, lots of rules about how information had to flow. And they were having a ridiculously hard time just staying on the same page with this complex flow. And they were emailing around, 30, 40 megabyte attachments, which, back then was huge and hard to deal with. They were printing out pieces of paper and then taping them together and drawing on them. And, the way he describes it is they were spending more time fighting the software they were using than actually building and designing this brand new product, which for my co-founder, Ben, he's a builder. He really loves that. That should have been like the most fun thing ever. But he just came to work frustrated every day. And so he built that first version of Lucidchart, which is our product that's been out, for the last 11 years. And, when I met him, it was that idea, that vision of helping people be able to think visually, helping them take complex ideas, be able to map them out and see them in a way that we can all most easily, most readily digest that complexity and turn it into clarity through visual representations, right? So I think that vision has been there from the very beginning. Now, I will say for the first, several years, it was sort of like one foot in front of the other, and we were just trying to survive and get by. And I think it was probably only, maybe 2-3 years ago where we realized, again, that problem that Ben had has always been present. When he launched Lucidchart and wrote a few bloggers, he immediately got several thousand people signing up. But that problem has always been there, and it's gotten even more acute as work has gotten more complex, as the way that all of us deal with the processes, the systems, the tools, the data that we use, all of that has gotten a lot more voluminous, a lot more complex, a lot more interrelated, a lot more interdependent. And it's hard for us to understand how our business, how our work operates today. And so what better way to be able to help teams be more effective and to build more effectively than to help them see all of that visually. And so yeah, that vision has been there from the very beginning. I think our eyes have been open to it even more lately. And I think it's just a tremendous opportunity, especially as we come out of, well, I don't know if we're coming out of the pandemic, but new ways of working, certainly remote and hybrid work are here to stay, and helping teams be more effective despite the complexity and the way we work now. I think that's a huge opportunity.
Explain to us what visual collaboration is. What does that mean?
Yeah, to us, that means getting teams together to actually get work done in a way that allows you to interact with others and with the information and the systems that you're working with in a natural visual way. So the way that I like to talk about it is, for the longest time, collaboration has actually been broken. But I think for a long time, we didn't realize that because we were able to mask that with a lot of meetings. We pull people in, we talk about a lot of things, but really the way that we work together doesn't work very well, because oftentimes we will meet and we will talk about things, and then we'll go back to our desks or, now our living room or kitchen table, and then we'll work on things by ourselves. And then when we've got something to show, maybe we'll come back, we'll have another meeting, and we'll talk a little bit more about what it is that we did. And you'll show me what you did, and I'll give some feedback on it. But people aren't really getting together and working together. And that's to us what visual collaboration means, is getting together on a single canvas that you can represent ideas and systems and processes visually, and really be side by side with each other working together. Now, sometimes that is synchronous in real time, like we'll get together and we'll brainstorm, and we'll have a session where maybe 20 of us or even 50 of us can be brainstorming together. Sometimes it means I'm on this canvas designing out a process or a system, and I'm inviting you in to comment on it and leave feedback, even if you might be in a different time zone. But it's really getting on that page and doing the work and getting it together to do the work, as opposed to just talking about what work we're going to do.
That's okay. So that makes so much sense to me. Do you think that a lot of organizations, I'm sure you saw this thing from Better yesterday with firing 900 people via Zoom. And there's so much controversy with so many people, organizations bringing people back to work, and they're sort of trying to figure out what this work from home strategy is. What would you say to a CEO that's sort of struggling with this question of how to, because I think you guys have done this really well, building teams and building collaboration, and how do they put together a strategy that can work for the company, but and at the same time work for the team and the employee?
Yeah,
because I think everybody's struggling with that right now.
Yeah, I think so, and I think there's a few things that make sense in terms of what we're doing here at Lucid, and that we've heard from our users and customers. I think the first thing I would point out is, and you've probably heard this or read about it, or other people have talked about it, which is, a lot of people have reported that, hey, over this last year and a half, we went and we're working from home or working remotely, and gosh, I'm more productive, like I'm getting more done, and I think you hear that a lot. Yeah. And I think there is some truth to that, which is when we're when maybe you don't have the distractions of whether it's meetings or other things, that you can focus, shut your door and crank out a lot of material, right? And so in some sense, people are more productive, but at the same time, what we've heard consistently from leaders as well as managers and even from team members is that while productivity seemed to increase, creativity did not, and collaboration did not. And there's this dichotomy, right? Like being productive does not mean that you're being creative. And so while you may be able to crank out a lot more output, it's the new thinking, the new ideas, the new product or service ideas for next month, next year, that we're sort of missing. Like we're able to execute on a plan that we already had, but it's coming up with that next generation of ideas, of plans, of strategy that is the most challenging. And that's what we're hearing consistently. And, we feel that creativity, what we hear is that creativity is really the result of productive collaboration, right? And so when you don't have that collaboration and, you're not having that collaboration because when people are remote, what people have said is it's harder to connect with other people. It's harder to brainstorm and to come up with ideas. And those are obviously critical to this creativity. And so, there's that isolation that comes in, with the distributed workforce. And so I think in many ways, a lot of the current work tools that we're using don't foster that collaboration, right? And for starters, one way to do it is to have this shared space. And we think that it makes sense to have it as a visual space where people can come in, not just ideate and get ideas down, but you can put ideas there, you can come back to it, you can reflect on it, you can iterate on them. It becomes sort of a war room. It's a place where you can not only create ideas, but then you can start to act on them. You can start to plan out what's next. And so that to us is what makes sense.
How does that work? So talk about that a little bit. How would a company implement something like this?
Yeah, a great question. Like what we find is, we've got entire teams, for example, that they will come together for a strategy session. Maybe we're planning out what the priorities are for the rest of the year, or
right.
Now's the time that we're planning out what's going on for next year. And we'll come, it helps that if you have someone who's thoughtful about the facilitation process and comes with some ideas about, hey, here are some specific questions I'm going to seed and come up with a plan. People come in and they're able to contribute ideas onto this shared space. But then not only are they able to contribute ideas, but then you're able to sort of very quickly sort and gather these ideas into different kinds of buckets and themes. And you're able to, really reflect and react to what other people are saying. Now, maybe their idea was very similar to yours. And so those two just merge and become one single idea. Or maybe it was a slight twist on what you were saying, and you're able to take the best of those two and combine them. And then once the team is able to reflect on that, and by the way, you've got some people who are pretty quiet, who never want to speak up, but they're able to contribute their really thoughtful ideas and have them be part of the mix, even if in an in-person scenario, they'd probably be hesitant to raise their hand or go up to the whiteboard and say some ideas. You can collate all of those, and then you can very quickly, sort them. You can gather them together. You can vote on them. You can react to them with emojis and understand what, where people are feeling the emphasis should be. And then from there, you can turn them into an action plan, right? You can start to prioritize, figure out who needs to do, this project on what time scale, and you can start to lay out, let's say a strategic plan for 2022, and you can start to put that together. That's the kind of work that we're talking about when we talk about, really visual collaboration.
Is that how you guys do it? Is that how you do it at Lucid?
It is. And in fact, there are teams that have done this. And then, as I mentioned, this lives on, right? It's just not a static board, and people continue to add to it. When new people come into the company, they're brought in and they can see the history of how we've evolved to where we are and what it is that we're doing. And so it becomes this living, breathing representation of our plan, our focus for this team for, the next, 6 months to a year. And it's constantly changing. And as parts of it change, parts of it might get archived off into another part of the document, but it's an up-to-date living representation of how we view the current world, the current priorities, who's working on what. And yeah, very much.
Is this as simple as a Google Doc or a Slack channel or one of your own products, something that you created internally? What is it? What is it? How do you keep that sort of, I get what you're saying from the sort of the collaborative standpoint, but is there, you have a document, really. There's also a living document somewhere.
Yeah, it's a living document or a living board or a living diagram or just a living representation of what's going on. Now, we use all of those other tools that you mentioned just now internally as well. So we use Slack. It's great for communicating, right? It's great for getting people's attention and updating them. But it's not the place that we can archive complex ideas, because you don't see how those ideas are related. And you've probably tried to search through Slack threads and find those mention that. Right. Yeah, exactly. And Google Docs are great for note taking. We use that for collaborative note taking for sure. All of our agendas, all of our notes are done in Google Docs. But again, if you're trying to work on designing or building or thinking about a complex idea or system or process, it's not the right way using words to describe all of that. You need to lay it out, the complexity, the dependencies, the relationships in a visual manner, so you see how one part of it is connected to the other part. And that could be a business process. It could be the technical architecture for a system. It could be software architecture. It could be organizational priorities and how you're allocating resources and people, org charts, right? Right. All of that is best represented visually.
Right. I don't disagree. So let's get into some of the products. Talk about some of the newer products that you've come out with. I think is Lucidchart and Lucid Spark. Those are new.
Well, Lucidchart is
Lucid
the one
Park.
that's been
That's
around
the
the
old.
longest.
That's right. Right. Lucid Spark though, and Scale. Lucid Scale.
Yeah, yes. Lucidscale is something that we just launched. Actually about a month ago. In fact, we launched it while we were in Portugal. So that's when that came out. Now there was an earlier version of it, but it's a cloud visualization product, and so it just example of the kind of power you can have when you can take structured information and we take it and we help map out those relationships visually for you automatically. So in this case, it's a cloud visualization product, Lucidscale, and you can plug it into your cloud system, whether it's Azure or GCP or AWS, and we will extract out all those relationships and automatically map out your cloud architecture for you. So you can see exactly what it is that you're running on Azure or AWS. And not only do we do that, but then, there's often a lot of information there, but we will let you filter by different views. We will let you customize views and save views because, if you're an application engineer versus if you're someone on the DevOps side versus if you're a security engineer or if you're, on the compliance side of things, the view that you want of your architecture, may be very different, of what you're running. And so we let you see all of that. And what's great is we create that for you automatically, because if you were to try to map out, or at least if we were a company of our size, if we were to try to map out, what exactly it is that we were running, it would take forever. And by the time we did it, it would be out of date because something else would have changed. So we do it for you automatically. Right. It's in real time. It's always syncing. It's always a representation of what is actually spinning and what's running. And that's incredibly valuable, whether you're debugging something, whether you're just trying to document for compliance purposes or for training purposes, or whether you're trying to, design the next generation architecture that you want your company or your product to run on.
Interesting. And so talk about Lucid Spark for a minute as well.
Sure. So Lucid Spark is a little bit, has been around a little bit longer. It's been out just about a year. And that is our virtual whiteboard. So it's a place for teams to gather and be able to create ideas and collaborate together. So think about the way I like to describe this. Think about, those planning sessions that I think we've probably all had before, where you have people come together into a room with a lot of whiteboards, and then each of you is given, a set of Post-it notes, maybe they're different colors, and you're asked to brainstorm on different ideas, and you put all your ideas and you put them in different places up on the board. Now, imagine being able to do that just as well, if not better, but with a group that's distributed, and you're not limited by the number of people that you can fit in the conference room or the number of people you're willing to fly in to do a strategy planning session. You can have as many people that you want working on this together as you want. And what's more, it's better because we can do a lot of that, where you take the stickies and you put the ones that are similar, you put them together, and then you put other ones together, and then you draw big circles around them. We can do a lot of that clustering for you and gathering automatically, based on the intelligence of the platform, right? Based on what people have typed in, based on the themes that we see. And then you can vote automatically, instead of using the little, sticker dots that maybe you're putting on the board.
Right.
We let you do all of that. And the best part is when you're done with that, you don't have to take a picture of the whiteboard and then, the most junior person in the room is the one who gets to type it all into a spreadsheet somewhere.
Scribbling out notes.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's
taking pictures with your phone, right?
Exactly. It's better if you see that visual representation, not that it's turned into sort of linear lines in a spreadsheet. And then we can flow all of that information into other systems that you might be using, to keep track of your work, work management systems like a Jira that our product and dev teams use, or, maybe it's an Asana or a Smartsheet or things like that you use for tracking, your projects.
Does it allow you to sort of do breakout rooms and do smaller groups and bring that together?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, because I mentioned you could have as many people working on it as you want, or at least, several hundred. Sessions with several hundred people working together oftentimes aren't the most fruitful and productive.
Right.
And so oftentimes what you want is you want to do breakout teams And we do the exact same thing. We break you out into different boards, but then there's that ability to take those boards and combine them or take pieces of them and bring them into a main board. So yeah, great question.
That's fantastic. So talk a little bit about, I want to get into, what you see in terms of collaboration. Are there new tools that you're working on that you can talk about, or what do you see in sort of this collaborative space, the growth in the market? What are the products that that you're hearing from customers that are needed? Are there things that you're excited about in this space? Because I think everybody right now is asking themselves, how do I get my team to collaborate better? Talk about that and talk about what's coming up in 2022, 2023. Sort of give us a crystal ball look.
Yeah, it's a great question. And you're right. I mean, we actually did a survey last year, and we found that, for most organizations, about 80% of them have, better collaboration amongst their workforce as the number one or number two priority within the organization because of, what we've all faced over the last year. And I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out. So I think what it comes down to is two things. One is the tooling, and I'll talk about it in a second. The other is just realizing that work and this hybrid approach, I think, is here to stay, and just being thoughtful about how you're going to do that. Like, I mentioned facilitators before, like when you run meetings, when you have agendas, just making sure that people know how the meeting is happening and you're aware of how people are participating, whether they're in a room, whether they're remote, and just being thoughtful and making sure that you're including people as part of that process. The other part, to your point, that people are thinking a lot about is, the software, the tooling. How can we help these teams? Even when we are thoughtful and we have the right motivations and awareness of how teams, like, are there ways that we can, help these teams be more productive? And I think, again, that's where we feel like, we're hopefully doing something, very meaningful. And the feedback that we get from users and customers is that it's really helping their teams be more productive and be more collaborative, right? Because you can actually, even when you're distributed and remote, you can be seeing the same, complex business process that we need to fine tune. Like, how is this support process going to work? Especially when we bring online an entirely new application, maybe, and we know that this is going to get in front of a bunch of users. We know they're going to have questions. How are we going to allocate resources? Who are those tickets going to get routed to? How are they going to know, how to respond to these? All of those parts. Like think about launching that new app. It has implications not for the team that needs to design and build the app, but the teams that are going to market and launch it, the teams that are then going to support it. All of that is very complex. It's interrelated, and you can really get people seeing how all those pieces are going to fit together time-wise, dependency-wise, and really starting to collaborate and understand what other parts of the organization are responsible for and how we can work together.
So you guys have a new sort of, I don't want to say partnership or sort of a collaboration going on with Smartsheet and QuickBase. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think what we like to say is we want our products and we want our users to be able to use Lucid seamlessly with however it is that they're already working. We want to make work better for you. We don't want to necessarily have to change the way you work, or we don't want you to have to feel like you have to change the way you work. So we want to work where our users work, and that means to us integrating into as many or all of the products and the tech stack that people are using. So other applications, and allowing people to pull data from those systems. I mentioned AWS or Azure before, or it might be Salesforce, it might be a marketing automation system, it might be an HR system. Pulling that information into our products so that we can help you represent it visually. But we also want to allow you to access our Lucid products from wherever you are. So that means being integrated into Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Slack and the productivity applications like Office 365 or the Google Workspace products. We want to be all of those places that people are already working, because we have users that are more technical. So coming from, let's say, Jira and Confluence from the Atlassian suite of products, being able to access our products right from there as well. So our goal really is to create that frictionless experience with our integrations, so that our visual collaboration suite can help our users get more value out of every stage of the workflow, no matter where you're at.
Right, and no matter what products you're using, right, whatever systems you're using, you can enhance those products. So we're almost out of time, but anything else that you're thinking, anything else that you've learned over the last year that would be words of wisdom to other CEOs and other leaders that are trying to get it done, trying to succeed, trying to move forward, and anything that you've learned over the last year that might be helpful?
Yeah, well, I think we've all learned a lot over the last year, and there's a lot of trial and error. Look, I'd say that the more ways that we can build connections between, with our own teams internally, as well as building connections with, our users and customers, those are always important, right? Like, I think used to be able to get out on the road and see your users and customers. I think that's gotten a lot more difficult now, but finding ways to build that connection and, building connections internally too. Like, I think that's critically important. That was the part that I mentioned before about teams feeling like, the distance makes it more isolating. When you're isolated, you don't collaborate as well. When you don't collaborate, you don't have that creativity. And then ultimately, maybe not in the near term, maybe not in the next day or week or month, but over the next quarters or years, that will show itself. And so building that culture of collaboration and being mindful of that, again, both from the software and the way that you enable your teams, but also the way that you run the organization and think about the culture of the organization. I think those are critically important. What are
you the most proud of the last 2 years?
I'd say I'm most proud of the way that our team has interacted and has really supported each other. I remember in the early days, in the days of the toilet paper shortage, you may remember that, but right. People would go on toilet paper runs and drop them off to, a new family who had a new baby and was not, able to get out as much, or, wasn't able to be the first in line when the Costco opened or whatever it is. I mean, just so many examples of people taking care of each other, like within our organization. That made me super proud. I mean, I think we've tried to build a culture where we really care about each other, and that really showed through. And obviously, after that initial shock, but being responsive and understanding our customers' needs and challenges that they had through the early days, and then subsequently through the pandemic, and being able to help them, be more productive, be more effective as we all went into this remote work world. I think that was super gratifying.
What's one big thing that you want to do better going into 2022 as a CEO? What is it? What is one thing that you really want to, accomplish or get better at, or what's one major goal for you this year?
Yeah, I think I've always enjoyed sort of really being in tune and in touch with what's going on across our entire company, and that's gotten harder. And at this point, I don't even know what the percentage of our employees have only been hired in this fully remote world that we've been in for the last year and a half plus. And so my goal is to really get to know our team more, and also to get to know our customers more in this new world with online interactions, and hopefully some in-person visits if conditions allow. So that's what I'm hoping personally to do, is to just get back in touch and build those stronger relationships again.
That's interesting. You said that. I was talking to a CEO a couple months ago, and he said what he's been doing is, and he told his managers, he said, look, I'm not trying to undermine you. I'm not trying to, get involved in what you're doing. But he said, I'm going to have virtual lunch 5 days a week for 30 minutes and I'm going to pick employees across the organization, and I'm going to do this until, we can go back to work or till things change. But he said, I have to know what's going on. I have to know how people feel. I have to get it from them, because I can't walk the halls. I can't pop in somebody's office. I need to be in touch. And it's a way for me to stay connected to the company. And I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he said, it's really, really been great for him It's been great for morale, but most importantly, it's been great for him because he's learning what people are feeling and thinking, and he's getting, tremendous feedback. So I don't know if that's something you could do, but I think it seems to be working for him. Like, he's got a much smaller organization than you do, but
that's exactly what I hope to get back to. And I'm sort of, jealous of that ability to do that. And I think we're trying to do that. We're trying to institute, more lunches, hopefully in person, but otherwise virtual, if it has to be, to sort of reconnect.
Now, how spread out are you guys? How many people what's that look like within the company?
Yeah, great question. So we, we're mainly headquartered. Our headquarters are in Utah, in the States, but we have a large office or a sizable office of getting close to 100 people in Amsterdam, and then we've got an office of about 20 people in Australia, in Melbourne. And but in the U.S., historically it has been mainly Utah focused. Now, over the last year and a half, I think people have dispersed a little bit, and so honestly, I don't even know where everyone is sitting these days. I think there's still a good concentration here, but that's sort of our footprint these days. We're a total company of about 800, a little over 800 people.
How are you handling the hiring? I mean, the need for talent right now. Are you looking globally? How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we're in that hybrid world where we do see value of trying to get people together. And so we would still like, at some point to be able to have those face-to-face interactions, live interactions. And when we can in the different locations, we've opened the offices. So for example, I'm sitting in our Utah office right now, and we allow people to come in. You don't have to come in, but we allow people to come in if they want. And I can't tell you how excited people were when we started doing that.
Right.
I guess it was earlier this spring or summer. Just that ability to see people again, to be able to, grab lunch with them, be able to just, even just socialize a little bit, as well as to be able to get work done. I think we prioritize that. So yes, we're definitely looking for talent everywhere, but we do hope to return to a mode where we can have some regular in-person interactions, and we're going to just figure out how all that's going to work when it's safe to do that.
What's your I'm just going off the rails here. I've got so many questions. Sorry.
No worries.
So how are you handling the vaccine and all of that? How did you guys handle that with your employees and your teams?
Well, look, my personal viewpoint is that vaccines are the best way for us to get back to as much of a normal world as possible, whether that's work, whether that's school, whether that's just going out shopping or socializing or being able to, do the kinds of entertainment and travel that we want to do. And so, that's my personal take. And so I think I would personally encourage everyone to, do your research and to get vaccinated. But, we realize that, different people, have different views on this. So there's certainly some people who are not able to. And so we want to maintain a safe work environment, right? And so we're putting in place all the things that we need to do to make sure that we want to be part of the solution. We don't want to be part of the problem. And so that's why, to come in, we're asking people to be vaccinated to come in. As these variants come up, obviously we're being very mindful of trying to understand who might be getting sick. We ask people to let us know so that we can do contact tracing and all of that kind of work to keep our employees as safe as possible. We obviously want to support people because people are coming down with illnesses, and thankfully most of the time it's not too serious, but we have had some situations where people have struggled for extended periods, and so we want to support them. So listen, I think it would be great if we can all do our part to really be as safe as possible. And it's not all about what I want and that I can do whatever I want, because that's true, that's one part of it, but we have to think about what we're doing for each other, and that would be my plea for all of us, is that we think about what's right for us, but we think about what's right for us as a community as well, and be mindful of that when you make your own decisions.
I appreciate that answer, Karl. Thank you for your time. This is real. We'll have to catch up next time you have a new product. Let me know. We'll get you back on to talk about it. And thank you for spending some time with us here today on Power Lunch Live on LinkedIn Live. And we'll see you next week. We've got a great show lined up for you next week. And until then, stay safe and have a great week. And we'll see you.
Thank you, Rhett. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Karl.